So, the rig that caught me the wood common from Spitfire Pool. Not once, but twice. It's my version of a hinge rig. It incorporates a semi-stiff boom and then a stiff chod hook section with a high-vis pop-up normally. A white one's normally my go-to. And on the occasion of catching the wood, I was using the white Northern Special. So the hinge rig really is my go-to rig when targeting specific big fish. Certainly on weedy lakes where there's low-lying weed and chod and debris on the bottom, it sits perfectly. You just alternating the length of your boom and having that pop-up sitting over the top of the debris. The only times I really wouldn't use it is if I was fishing on rock hard, clean bottom over particle and chops and stuff like that, in which case I'd want a bait that was sitting on the bottom or nearer to the bottom. I'd either use a 360 with a whittled down bait, or I'd even use a bottom bait hard on the deck. With the hinge, really that's a rig that I'm fishing over a boilie only approach. And a small detail, but what I'll tend to do is feed slightly bigger bottom baits than the size of the pop-up that I'm using. And the reason for that is that the pop-up is obviously sitting off the deck, so it's closer to a fish that's swimming up in the water. So in my mind, from a perspective point of view, as the fish is looking down on the freebies, if that slightly smaller hook bait is closer, it will look a similar size to the freebies that are further away, and therefore could be deemed to be on the bottom and just like a freebie. People often worry about a big pop-up looking alien off the bottom and standing out. So whether it makes a difference, I don't know. But in my mind, it's always nice if I've got like a 15mm pop-up, I'll feed an 18mm bottom bait. From using a 12mm pop-up, I'll feed a 15mm bottom bait. But like I say, it's a small thing, but it's confidence, and that's what fishing's about. So the rig itself, it's very simple to tie. Start with the boom, which is the Camotex semi-stiff. I'll pull off maybe 14 inches of that, depending on the lake bed that I'm fishing over. At Spitfire, I was fishing on a clay spot, but I went for a fairly lengthy boom of about 10 inches. The reason for that is it's a really big fish, that wood common. You're fishing for that specific fish. I'd seen it in the area, and I wanted enough rope for it to hang itself, so when it sucked in the bait, it would fly in and hopefully catch hold. So once I've stripped off the hook link off the spool, I'll tie a loop in the end. That's a figure of 8 loop knot. Then I'll thread on a XL anti-tangle sleeve. That goes over the loop. That's so I can use the loop on a quick change swivel. I'll then take one of the ready tied Edges chod rigs. I know that sounds lazy, but those rigs are tied way better than I can tie a chod rig. So I always use those ever since we've done them. And I'll tie the ready tied chod rig to the other end of my boom with a 4-turn grinner knot. I always moisten the knots and slowly ease them down with this semi-stiff material. You don't want to be pulling that dry and tight because the coating can crack. So you add some moisture and ease the knot down, and it will be fine. You can even do it over a little bit of steam on a kettle if you're not sure. But I've been doing it that long, I know how I can work with the material. So once the chod section's tied onto the boom, I'll add a blob of putty halfway up the boom section just to help pin that down, and then another bit of putty around the top of the size 11 ring swivel on the chod section. That's to then counterbalance my pop-up. And then I say the pop-up's attached. I first of all drill it out, and then I add a little cork plug in there. That just gives me consistent buoyancy for a long period of time. Sometimes I could be leaving this rig out for over 24 hours. And on the occasion of the first time when I was fishing for the wood common, I'd place the rig and I was fully prepared to leave that rig in place for 24 to even 48 hours because I knew it was on the patrol route of that fish. So that cork plug makes sure the pop-up will stay buoyant the whole time. And then I attach the bait using the blob method, which is just a piece of bait floss through the mini hook ring swivel that's on the chod rig, bait onto the baiting needle, slide the bait onto the bait floss, pull the mini hook ring swivel up into the cork plug so it sits on the barrel so the bait can spin, and then I just burn the floss and blob it down with my finger so it creates a nice seal and that bait can't come off. Numerous times I've been picked up by coots and tufties and the bait's never pulled off. It's really secure. One of the things that really adds to the confidence when using this hinge rig is the hook holds that you get when you've landed a fish. I can't think that I've ever landed a fish on this rig in the 15 years I've used it where the rig hasn't been plumb center in the bottom of the bottom lip, a good, you know, 1 to 2 inches back in that prime area where you want the hook to grab hold. And I think that's why it's such a popular rig with so many anglers, is because the hook holds are always really secure and you get very little by the way a hook pulls on it, and also it's a real bugger for them to deal with. It's a really good anti-eject presentation. So if you've got a rig that's hard to be spat out, and then when it's in, stays in and you land the fish, what else could you ask for? And that's the rig. Like I say, it's not the hardest to tie, but it's certainly one of the best and most effective rigs when you're fishing for big fish. And like I say, I caught that wood common both times on this rig, and that's a fish that sees a lot of pressure and it's been around a long time, and yeah, can't deal with it.